Përshëndetje të dashur, i takohemi sërish në Klanin Ditor. Sot me mua për të zhvilluar një bisedë në gjuhën angleze, si do qoftë, do shoqëroheni me titra në gjuhën shqipe për të kuptuar më mirë të gjithë bisedën, pasi kemi të bëjmë me një temë pak të ndihshme dhe serioze. Sot me mua në studio Svetlana Bacevanova, kuratore e ekspozitës që do mbahet në Shkup me datë 12 qershor, më thënë ditën e sotme, ditë e mërkurë në ora 7 për të gjithë ju që do keni një kënaqësinë apo interesin ta ndjekni pasi ta shihoni dhe bisedën që do e tregojmë. Po ashtu, përveç Svetlanës, ka me mua dhe Christopher Okikoni, që është fotoreporter, dhe po ashtu do e tregoj punën e tij në ekspozitën që do mbahet sot në stacionin e vogël në Galerinë e Republikës së Maqedonisë së Veriut. Ekspozita quhet Ukraina, një krim lufte, apo thënë në anglisht Ukraine, a war crime. Për të shtjelluar më tepër mbi këtë temë, flasim pak me mysafirët tanë. Hi, pleasure to have you today here with me.
Thank you for inviting us.
So, Svetlana, you are the curator of the exhibition. You are the photo evidence itself. So, Photo Evidence is a French organization.
Photo Evidence is a publishing house established 12 years ago in New York. And after 12 years of promoting, it's focused entirely on documentary photography and human rights. And after 12 years of promoting issues around the world and try to deal with that and make people aware about what happened, we decided to create an association, and this association is based in France. That has also workshops and award for women photographers and several other small things.
Ukraine, a war crime is based, the exhibition is based on the book with the same name, right?
Yeah.
What inspired creating this book, publishing this book? What was the main goal, let's say, behind it?
So as you could tell from my name, I'm coming from Bulgaria. So I spent most of my adult life living under communism regime, and I'm fully aware of what the Russians are capable for. I also work as a photojournalist in Democratia. That was the first anti-communist newspaper. And one of the things that happened shortly after the fall of the wall in Berlin and the beginning of the newspaper is that there were many things that were discovered as crimes that were done by the previous regime, but they were just words, just stories. They were never physical evidence, never image. Or if there were any, they were destroyed by the regime. So when the war started, I knew that it will be, oh, that's not true. The propaganda will talk about this is not true. What you see is not, it's manipulated or whatever. So I decided, let's do a record of what happened. So Ukraine, a war crime is a book that contained around 360 photographs from over 100 photographers, and every one of them record, document a war crime that happened on Ukrainian soil, committed by Russians.
These photos and these photojournalists are people who reside there, or they are constantly keeping up the work on the Ukraine war, or is someone who you contacted specifically for the
As
book?
you know, this war was covered very, very well. Almost every person, photojournalist I know, was there to cover the war. So when we decided to do the book, we had an open call to everyone. And of course, I invited particular photographers that I follow the work. One of them is Chris. We invited them personally to submit work. So that's how we got around 7,000 images from over 100 photographers from 39 countries. So that's a very clear statement of what they witnessed. There is no doubt that this is true.
Over 700 7,000 photos being presented or shown to you. Can you please elaborate more on the process of you selecting only 360 photos to be showcased to the public? I believe it was hard and quite time-consuming.
It was very difficult, and the war was very fresh, so everything that we see, we were not so numb as we are now, because everything that we see in the beginning was just shocking. And we had these 7,000 images, and we knew that we have to shrink this to a book format. So we went with the photo editor, Sarah Lynn. She's a former director of photography in National Geographic and very skilled photo editor. We went more than 50 times over everything to make sure that we have representation of the most important event, and we also have stories. And what is new about this book and different is that we asked the photographers to, 38 of them contributed written testimony of the day they photographed particular war crime. Or like Chris with his story about Father Miron. He told the whole story, how he went to Bucha, how he discovered the body, and then later what happened. So this is another layer of evidence that we put over the visual evidence, which we know for war crime you need three. So we have two. It's a matter of time to find the third one.
We kind of know what we can see or we expect to see when we are dealing with visuals of war crime being committed or hearing stories, but it's still different, I believe, when you are actually shown the pictures and actually seeing and hearing from people itself or people dealing every day with the situation. How hard was it to...
For me, it was very hard. I even, in some point after 4 months of going through the images, I realized that I feel like being a photojournalist on the front line for 4 months without, like, the emotions that came from the images and what we see. And then you read the captions and you know the name of everyone, you know the name of the victim, you know the story. So they became, the word become personal because you know already these people. And I think I'm pretty sure that at the end I had something like PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, because it was just again and again in my mind. Everything from my peaceful surrounding was able to remind me about that. Like I see, I'm driving and I see a truck coming and I see a tank. So at that point I said, okay, we have to just back up a little bit. Luckily the book was ready and give some time to process. So I could imagine what is for them because I didn't have the fear of being on the front line. So for them it's probably much more difficult.
Since you mentioned it, Christopher, how is it actually? You have been residing in Ukraine since 2014, right? Since the war actually started. How is it being on the front line?
I mean, it's stressful, obviously. And you feel the stress later. In the moment, like you might have imminent fear, but like your level of stress, I think, in your life is just higher. Like you come back, and it's, I mean, even speaking to soldiers, speaking to other journalists, guys who volunteers, you know, doing humanitarian work, everybody has the same kind of feeling. Like you're there, you feel very much alive, very in tune. Like you're stripping away any distractions from your regular life, and very focused on what you're doing. And then you go back, like I have an apartment in Kyiv, I go back there, and yeah, there's air raid. It doesn't even affect, I have no sense when there's air raids and you hear the anti-aircraft working or explosions, like it seems minor in comparison to being under constant artillery attack. So it kind of doesn't register, it's just background noise. But your general level of stress is higher, and everybody says you feel flat. You know, you feel emotionally flat. I think it's the way to describe it. Like you need a week to sit around and do nothing to start to feel normal again. And I think that this is textbook kind of experience.
10 years after, it's still the same feelings.
Yeah, it used to be worse. That I felt very like come back and feel charged up and like. Very a lot, almost like you just got in a car accident but survived. So like this feeling of adrenaline you'd feel it when you come back and then go down, right? And you kind of depression, minor depression, but nothing seems so important, you know. But you're doing this work, so you have time, especially if you work on longer projects, like where you're coming back to the same themes, like you then have time to look at your photographs, think about what you've seen, take some notes, and feel like you're doing something. Because you know, there's also a feeling of helplessness, like you're there, you have a reason to be there and photograph. And I think if you don't do it, you might think that's the hardest part. But the hardest part for me and for many of my colleagues, obviously everybody's different, but you can put one group where like the actual shooting part and running around and arranging things and looking at, you're talking to people who are in distress, and it's, you would think that's the harder part, but it's not. It's then like, what did I just see? What just happened? How do I, like during the Battle of Kiev, like we were talking about war crimes. So you go to Bucha, you go to Irpin, like where there's these battles happening around. The city is empty, right? So you would go less than 10 kilometers, and there's a battle rate, like artillery, snipers, crazy stuff. And then you go back to Kiev, the electric was on, the internet was on, like it was winter, it was so it's talking about the end of February, early March, it's cold, the heat's on. You might come home and like cook something, and like other photographers, you're eating, having a bottle of wine, and like, okay, like let's now, okay, we had an hour to decompress. I gotta, at the time working for the Wall Street Journal, I need to edit and write. You're looking at your picture. You forgot for a minute. You're looking at your picture. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like how can this be? Also, like you in the past, you were going too far, 8 hours in the car to the front line, and you went to Kiev totally normal. So it was odd that the same war is being prosecuted so close to where you live. And then you're seeing crime. I mean, it's criminal. First of all, the whole invasion is criminal. The whole thing is a war crime. Just being there is a war crime. And then you're looking at, not that it should matter, rich person, poor person, but like, if you're a rich person, your house gets destroyed. You have options of things to do. If you go to I'm sure everybody in the city here is connected to the village in some way. Everybody goes to if you live here, you go to your granny's house in the village, and I don't need to go to a village here to know what the village is. It's people that are living hand to mouth, working in the field, feeding themselves, taking care of themselves. And that's Ukraine. And like you're seeing that person's little village house with 3 rooms and maybe an outside toilet destroyed. And what are they going to do? Nothing. And they're lucky to be alive. You see that. Then, you go to Bucha, which is the most famous example, and I think it's a good example to talk about because you have so many Russian propagandistic voices in this region. So like, you can look at what they say happened in Bucha, and they might say that it was staged by the Ukrainians, or the Ukrainians did it, actually killed people, or it's all fake. They'll show you, like, that body's moving. What do you I don't even know how, like, you put these different ideas out there and you create doubt. It's not, none of them, they don't hold water. They're not good arguments because it's not true. And I can tell you it's not true because I was there and I saw it happen. I saw the immediate, I was there the day the city was liberated. I saw the flag go up. People who, when you're working in this kind of environment, when it's tense, there's people sometimes don't want you to photograph things. When there's fighting going on, you're going to give away our position. You're going to get everybody killed. There's these fears. I understand why they think that. It's not accurate, but I understand why they feel that way. But then, like, in the immediate aftermath of something, it's different. Like all kinds of grannies coming up to you, pulling on your like, come here, look at this. And they take you into a basement, and there's people that were murdered. They take you, there's a well over here. There's and there's 2 bodies. There was a garage, 2 different garages. I saw one, and I had gone there with, we're walking around, and we meet some soldiers who were like, we're going to go see our apartment and see if it's intact. So we're going to their neighborhood, and an older couple says, you need to see this. They take us to, like in communistic blocks, you have your little garages, and there's, everything is burnt. And they said Russians killed somebody, a woman, and then burned her body. And the level of these are guys who have witnessed war firsthand, combat firsthand. Like, is that? I think it's a mannequin. No, it can't be. You don't even want to believe it, And then you look, but you know what you're looking at. You're trying to find a reason.
It's your mind, probably.
Yeah, you're trying to protect yourself.
To protect yourself.
So people want to show you, right? Like, people want to tell you what happened. And like, you're there. The bodies, some of them have been sitting there for some time. They're rotten. and some of them are fresh. We saw cars that were trying to escape, and the whole family's dead, like in macabre, like who woman decapitated, but her hair, like how your hair is sitting on your shoulders, it's like a perfect, like a guillotine. And her husband, there was just like his legs and this bone, like his jawbone. The children was like stew, like in the back seat. You couldn't even, you had to look closely to understand that it was two little people. So you saw things like this and you photograph it. So it happened. Then Svetlana mentioned, like, you're looking at the bigger version of the story. Then you go, and this couple took us to another, like a auto mechanic's garage. And, you have like the little pit where you drive over and you got to work on the car underneath. And there's a man, like, you don't need to be on CSI Skopje to understand what happened. He was executed, shot in the back of the head. Clear, right? So, and he's wearing kind of winter clothes. So it looks like maybe he's a mechanic and this is his place of business. It's a reasonable first assumption. So this bothered my father. Was an auto mechanic. So like this, it just kind of touched me in a way that maybe some of the other ones just felt more personal.
Yeah, more personal, more familiar.
So as it came to be, it's a whole long story, but we end up finding out they were collecting pictures in the town to help people. Like maybe they were taken away to prison. Maybe they're injured. A lot of places they could be, or are they dead? So you have this, I say database. It's it's a Telegram group. I'm just sharing the pictures, and sure enough, a young man says, "I think that's my father," and the people in the town connect us. So we end up coming back. I went to visit my partner, was in Romania, and took a little break, went to visit her, immediately came back. We found out the next morning, went to the morgue.
If I may ask, how was this pause of traveling to another country?
That was bizarre. So she took her son and daughter to Romania, like after the first week of the invasion. They had an opportunity and a place to stay there. So like to wait out what's going to happen. So after a few weeks, because this is weeks after Bucha. So things around Kyiv had calmed down. And it was also at the point I had gone to Chernihiv, which is maybe an hour and a half away. On normal times, it takes like 4 hours then because bridges are destroyed, roads are... And you see a city that's just liberated, and there's people still hiding in basements. You see all of this fresh. And I'm listening to stories from people, and they're telling me, oh, my daughter, lost her leg, and this one, oh, my grandson was killed. And you have the feeling, and I think I will say it to you, you almost feel bored. Like you heard it 100 times, like, and you need a break. So I needed a break. And then when you're on the break, you're looking at everybody just like we went shopping, go to the mall, and it's the mall. The mall is the same everywhere. In every European country, the mall is the same. You go in the mall, like, what is going? You feel very uneasy. It's a very difficult feeling to describe, like surreal, like which one's reality?
But the mall should be like the normal routine.
And it was normal, but it wasn't normal.
Yeah.
This is what was so strange. We're looking at people, like, I felt like, what are you doing? You're buying socks? What's going on? You're buying salami? What's happening? Like, no, it's just normal. It's what people do. They buy stuff they need or don't need, but they want.
Huh? So then it became not important, all these small
it's
things.
So strange. Totally. And, but we went back and spent time, and we find out that we go to the morgue, and you see the process. You understand, there's hundreds of bodies in trailers that aren't cooled, and you have, they're in bags. So you have a list, this is number bag 17. For example, it's a man, over 40, bald, and he has got a tattoo on his right arm. That's all we know about him. And this is a woman, and some type of description. So you go to look for your loved one. You start off with my father is bald and has a tattoo. So you start opening bags and looking. There's a morgue worker who's doing this, and literally is this him? And for example, show you the arm, is this the tattoo? No, that's not the tattoo. And you look again, that's him. And you watch other people, a woman looking at her husband, and it's a different situation. We were there and saw a woman is looking at her husband, and she's with the mother who's looking at her son. And they're arguing. I don't think it's him. Because like they can't process. First of all, the body is in such a state. And like they don't want to accept it. You know, you watch this, it's nuts. And then we find this man, the son and his uncle are there. We go back to the village. Now we're learning about him. You know, in the course of the morning, like the guy was a priest from Western Ukraine. And he's Greek Catholic, so they're not Orthodox, right? So it's like one of the second biggest religion. It's it looks like an Orthodox mass, but they're Catholic. So like their theology is they follow the Pope. Similar. It's the right. If you went there, you would think you were in an Orthodox church. So he's a priest from there. Was working in Kiev as a priest, and stayed in Bucha to take care of old people. So we went to help them with food and water. So we go inform the woman, old lady granny he's staying with. As soon as she saw the son, son looks like the father naturally. As soon as she saw it, she understood. We have to, he had like a little apartment in the house. We had to break into his apartment to get his, priest vestments. And we went back to the morgue, dressed him in his priest vestments, put him in the coffin, and drove him back. He was from 8 hours away to the funeral, And actually, it's interesting. So like you have this larger picture of the story, like this mass crime. But, I feel fortunate, honored that I was able to at least connect with one family and know it's not just anonymous people. Like the other day, and it feels quite nice actually, the other day, Ukraine has like Day of Journalists. They have a lot of days of things. Do you have that here?
Yeah.
Like we're like, this is
we
the
also
day
have
of
a lot
like
of days,
sock makers, and this is the day of journalists. Every day is a day. Everybody has a day. Which I didn't get flowers. So I should have. So he wrote just to say, thank you for what you did. And like he has a copy of the book. He wanted his story of his father, like to people to know, like my father was just some guy. He wouldn't know about it. But he was killed and as you go on, he was killed because he's from Western Ukraine, speaks Ukrainian with an accent from there. He practices a church that, practices a religion in a church that broke away from Russian Orthodoxy. He's a Nazi. And he needs to be killed. He was chased, hunted down, and murdered. So where they are, and as you start unfolding, then you find out there's security footage. They followed him there. The son wanted to see the place where he was killed. We found his borsatka, like little man bag with his passport, his rosary, and it was like his Ukrainian money, whatever, his things, his personal items, like half burnt. But it was his. I mean, you could look through it. His son recognized his father's crucifix, and his ID is there. It's his name on it. And so I think it's. Then you have the book, right? So the book has broader stories, more narrow stories, and also like if you're half following the news, right? You are aware that this something happened in Bucha that was a big one, right? And the first one that was really over the top. You have this. Then you have they exploded the dam, which the ecological damage is a generation of ecological damage. You have all of these different incidents. You have, forget about Mariupol. The guys who photographed Mariupol, if they didn't do that, we would, it's on film. It's on film. They filmed it. These crazy dudes. I mean, what are you going to say about these guys? They are heroes. They filmed it. So like, you can Russians will tell you it didn't happen, but you can watch it. You can watch. They filmed it. You can watch it in live happening here. It's in front of you. Watch it.
Actually, the film will be part of the exhibit.
I highly recommend it.
Of the exhibition in Skopje.
Very hard to watch, but it's like mandatory. If you want to understand who Russians are and who Ukrainians are. And even like the extent, and they don't hold back. Like there's people in the film, like local people who they're not sure like who's bombing them, like how would they know? There's local people like, well, maybe if Zelensky didn't push, like there are alternative, these voices there, but it's clear people are being hunted. That's another story. But the point is like they document it. So you have all of these different tragedies around the country, and then you put them all in the book because like. Different journalists, you can only be in one place. So sometimes you're working on something else. Awful happens there. You heard about it, but like didn't really register. Like, for example, there was a bombing of a train station, people evacuating from Kramatorsk, and over 100 people killed, and how many people legless.
Are all these stories that you're mentioning
They're all
part
in
of the
book.
exhibition
Yes.
in the book?
So then you understand, I'm not sure in the exhibition, obviously it's smaller than the book, but like many of them are. And then you look at like the grand scale of it, you know, like the things you heard about this and that, but then this all happened within this time. How could this be? Well, it was, you know, and that's where I think the book is valuable.
How this person, the son of this priest that you already told us about, was okay with you approaching him, was
So
thankful
they contacted
to you.
us. Somebody from the town said, I've got a guy. He says he sees your photographs. He thinks it's his father because his head was swollen, is missing part of his face.
And he
It's
was
graphic.
thankful that you helped and everything.
We're in communication. I went back a year later and he was interviewed and I photographed him in his hometown. And the priest's sister, who I met at the funeral, but I photographed them and they did a follow-up of like how they're processing, how they're dealing. He wrote me a few days ago just to say thank you for what you do. I mean, it's quite, I don't even know, like, I'd like to, you know, you're welcome and I wish we never met. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
wish we never, I
Yeah.
wish you just were living your life with your
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
You know?
But have you had situations where you were either approached or you approached a family or a family member or someone who got their loved ones murdered or killed?
Well, I approached them.
Yeah, and they had maybe disbelief, they didn't trust in your work, or they had
No,
mixed
I mean,
emotions, or were all of them
Not
just
quite like that, but you know, working. I stayed in Bakhmut for a few months, like when the battle was in like a medium stage before it really got bad, and there was people that they didn't want you there. Local people, you know, plenty did, and plenty didn't. You know, mostly for fear of that you're going to give away positions or you're a spy. You know, and of course, like you're American. And my best friend is in the army, so I'm staying with soldiers, and you know he got free time. He's there; they do rotation, so okay, let's go talk to people. And he's a journalist in civilian life, so let's go talk to people. And I do a lot of work with disabled kids, and a whole nother story, but kind of have extra sympathy for invalids, people who are housebound. So we end up bringing aid to them, and even some of the people we're bringing aid to, like. You're American, and he is Ukrainian army, but he doesn't have like a lot of guys are wearing just random military clothes. So like you got a jacket with a British flag on it. Are you guys NATO here to do something to us? Like, yes, of course, there's people like that, but in general, no. I mean, except for the fear you might actually get them injured, or like just before the invasion, working in Mariupol. And along the coast, I did a long story for Bloomberg about the mood from there to Crimea, to Odessa. Actually, we traveled for 2 weeks. People felt like a war, like invasion could be coming, and didn't want to tell us something because they were afraid. You know, whether it for a variety of reasons, mostly just for their own safety, because they know they had a good idea what's coming. But besides that, no, I think. Ukrainians, I didn't really work in other parts of the world in such dramatic circumstances. They wanted to be documented. And it's a very tough feeling because, like, I photographed funerals and then I've been at funerals as a mourner for guys I know that got killed. And sometimes I look at my colleagues who are like, there was an example, like, I was at a funeral photographing, and I know, especially the Kyiv photographers, like local guys, like a bit to say hello, and I know. And then I'm at a funeral for one of my friends, and it's the same place, and I'm watching the same people working, doing the same thing I was doing a week ago, and like, of course you question, like, am I like, there's a mother crying over her dead son, and you're standing this far away taking their picture, even if they want you there. Like you're still like it's the most intimate moment. I mean, it's more intimate than photographing them having sex. It's it's a mother saying goodbye to her son in an which is unnatural to begin with, and he died in a very unnatural way. So like, what are you doing there? Like you should be there for a reason. You need to know why you're there and feel like people need to see this. to understand. And of course, I do think it is, but even I have those mixed emotions when I'm there as a participant. Right? I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Svetlana, beside obviously having to document what is going on in the Ukraine and telling everyone about the war crimes and having the visuals, obviously it helps with the propaganda and everything. What, as a curator, what are you actually trying to shed light on, and what messages and what feelings are you trying to give to the audience and whoever either buys the book or comes and see the exhibition?
Simply, this exhibit presents everything that you want to know about the war in Ukraine beyond the headlines in the newspaper. Because the images that are passing on the news, we see them just for a second. Then you go, you read, you know that person, you learn more, then you share. And I think people should just come and see and understand better what's going on. It's just 2,000 kilometers from here.
And this last point, actually last 2 points. One, the amount of kilometers. We drove here from Ukraine. You can drive here in 24 hours. You can be in a war zone. Just drive.
The Russians could come for 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get through us first. But
sometimes people are like, it's going on there.
It's not that far.
Yeah, it doesn't
connected.
affect us in any way or
it's
shape or
closer than you
form,
think.
but it's not
And
true.
I also sometimes I kind of joke about people say the history is written by the winners.
Yeah,
And
it's a famous expression, actually.
Yeah, I would say sometimes it's written by brave publishers. Because
This is better.
now the Russians are deleting from their books what we are recording. So it's extremely important that this exists as a material. And from the first book, recording just war crimes, we decided to do a follow-up book that is called Ukraine, Love Post-War. And actually it's the consequences of the war to children, women, and soldiers, men. And there are stories, particular stories for people, and you would learn what exactly is the cost of the war for Ukrainians, what they sacrifice every day. And we try to include stories that are more inspirational, because in that sadness, somebody needs to hold the light a little bit up. So there are many people like that in Ukraine. So we try to include stories like that in the book.
And I would say, like, the last thing about come and see. So it's tonight at 7 o'clock is the opening. And I would say, like, if you're pro-Ukrainian, if you really, really support Ukraine, it's great to come in and see and understand on a different level. If you are super pro-Russian, you don't need to come. Your mind is made up. But if you're a person who says, it's pretty awful what's happening there, but, you know, maybe Russia felt cornered, and if you're trying to find two sides to this, I really, really invite you to come and look at what they've done.
Yeah.
And understand, like, what provocation would justify that.
Shouldn't it be just pro-humanity?
You could
And
be
being a
pro-humanity.
human- yeah,
Absolutely.
and be a
These are
human.
regular people.
Yeah.
They're people that, like, if you're in New York City, you might not feel much of a connection when you look at them. If you're from here,
Yeah.
you will look at those people and you will see their homes, and you will see yourself.
The exhibition, I mean, is being presented in in a region that is quite familiar with war and war crimes. So far, it has been presented in Pristina and Tirana, if I'm
Yeah, it
not
started
mistaken.
in Tirana.
Yeah.
It's organized. The organization of the exhibit and the publication of the book are supported by the Open Society Foundation, Western Balkans. So it was their idea to organize this traveling exhibit, and photo evidence supported that. So we started in Tirana. The next stop was Pristina. And actually, coming from the west, moving to the east, the exhibit becomes more and more problematic.
In what ways?
Because in Pristina and in Tirana, people have made their mind on which side they are.
Yeah.
And the people and the governments. Moving east, things become kind of, the governments are not necessarily agree with people's opinion. So that's why it's important, exactly like country in Macedonia, Bulgaria, Serbia. this exhibit to be seen and people to learn more than what they receive as a propaganda from the from
Has
the
it been
TV.
hard, now that we're talking, it's going to be shown tonight at 7 p.m., but has it been hard to find support and other, let it be financial material or in any way or shape or form to be supported by the government or institutions?
I approached Open Society because I know that what we want to produce is something that probably they'll be proud of having. So I approached directly them. I didn't try anybody else, but probably it's possible.
What was the after, let's say, the after talks with the audience or anyone in Pristina, in Tirana? I believe it should have been quite personal, especially for the audience in Kosovo when they saw the exhibition. Did you get any comments or stories maybe shared with you after seeing the exhibition?
I met few people whose parents were part of the war in Kosovo. Some of them left, some of them stayed. I was there as a photojournalist, so I see a lot of similarities between what the Serbian did to Kosovars and what the Russians are doing to Ukraine. It's pretty much the same. It's probably the same motivation.
Has any of the stories now, for both of you, any of these stories or the photos that you have selected or that you've captured has been an eye-opener or something that has touched you deeply so far?
Lots. I mean, I would say, as Svetlana said earlier, like there's a lot of stories of misery. And there's plenty that really, like this story I just told you, there's photographs of this man and then his son in the funeral. Of course, this. I work a lot on the front line and working on a project for the last 2 years about like triage on the front line. So like you're the first stop for injured soldiers. So I've seen a lot of dead and mangled soldiers and all of this. It's very graphic content and trying to tell the story of these doctors and nurses and medics, like what it's like to be them. All of this, of course, touches you. But then, as she said, like there's pictures that kind of inspire you. So I took a photograph of a girl coming out of the battle outside of Kyiv. She's walking out of it, and she was running a dog shelter. She's young, like 20 years old, and dressed like, I don't even know what, like bohemian, you know? Very odd outfit.
Like hipster.
Yeah, like, really, like, I saw her coming and was like, what's happening? And she's got dogs in wheelchairs and who's missing a leg and really a mess, like a whole mess of dogs. And I saw it coming and I understood she's coming towards me and there's just destroyed vehicles everywhere. And I see like there's a spot like maybe 10 meters between destroyed vehicles. And I'm like, I just want her to go by, you know, and like get her this like... And she just like, one saw dogs start going different ways and she just kind of like put her arms out and like dogs are pulling her and she makes this expression like almost like a victorious expression and it's just like, this is a little girl, you know, she's 20 years old, so she looks like a child. And, you know, this picture, and just like as a side note, like later on, I was with other guys and like they just didn't have, they had something okay, good, but I just had it, you know? And I didn't even see it, to be honest. Like one of my friends, like, I'll give you $10 for it right now. Just put it on Instagram. I think people are gonna like it. Like, I was like, yeah, it's stupid. It was so kind of funny. I didn't really understand what I had, and it went viral immediately. And like, I mean, you can get T-shirts. I got a shopping bag, like a shopper. One of the big banks in Ukraine, you know, you have like in your digital wallet, like digital physical, it looks like a credit card. The picture is that on this bank's, like they're using it as their logo. It's on, they made a mural. There's murals all around Kyiv, these giant, like 4 or 5 story murals. They made one of her. It's outside, they put it on a big billboard outside the Russian embassy in Berlin. It's all over the place. So like for me, like this photograph, and I went through a period where it's like, I've taken other pictures, you know.
Yeah,
I don't want
we
to be
see
serious, but like I
people-
realize
yeah.
I'm super proud of it. It's like become something that if I go someplace in Ukraine, I'm like, can I photograph here? And they're like, who are you? So I took this picture. They're like, all right, go on.
Yeah, from
It's
what
quite
I've
nice.
seen, at least from social media or different type of medias, people are also quite concerned about the animals and their well-being also in the Ukraine.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
that's probably why it also went
It
quite
is,
viral.
and even
quite
I
big.
tell you something funny. The photograph obviously super popular, and in the days people were talking about it. And I meet a medic 2 or 3 days later from Crimea, and he's like, he's like, I tell him I'm a photographer. He's like, do you know the idiot who took that picture of the girl with the dogs? I was like, yeah, I know him. And he's like, it makes me sick. Like, people care more about animals than they do people. And like, this guy is making her heroic when there's like people saving people. We had a really interesting conversation before. I was like, I took that picture. And we talked about it a little bit. I understand his point of view. And sometimes you think like, well, there's dead children. Why are we concerned about dogs? But everybody loves their dog. And like, you just didn't see that photo before. And also like her defiance. Like that was her thing. She takes care of, abused and neglected animals, gives them shelter. And she went, she could have just left safely.
Yeah,
She
even
went into,
when she was in danger, she still managed
like,
to take
for
care
real
of them.
danger.
And,
I can't stress it enough. There was bodies around. Like I have pictures from 20 meters away of dead bodies on the ground. Like, it's a dangerous place. And she went in and took them out. Crazy. So like, if you feel, and it's important because like, it's very easy to feel, what can I do? Short of, maybe you're not going to become Rambo. Not everybody, it's only a small part of guys are, storming trenches. What else can you do? Well, I'm not sure what I can do, but she found something she can do to help.
Yeah.
So you can find something you can do to help.
As you are also by sharing these photos and
That's nice to
exhibitions
hear.
and also
Absolutely.
books to help with the propaganda and everything, to actually tell us and let us know more and more in detail of what is going on in the Ukraine.
Yeah, that was the purpose.
Yeah. In Tirana, you also met Zelensky, if I'm not mistaken, right? He
Nope.
came and...
We were supposed to meet him.
but he came and checked the exhibition, or...
He did.
Did we get any comments from him, or...
He said, bravo, very well done. I have this as a message.
But at least he was satisfied with what is being shown about his country.
From this very...
I mean, he see it probably every day.
Yeah, and I mean, just if you look at his Instagram, you over time will, if you have been following his Instagram, he reposts a lot of photojournalists' work, and you would have seen many of the photographs that are in the book in what he's decided to share with the world. So, he's the commander-in-chief, not only of the president, but he's the commander of the army, the leader. He's the leader. Like him, don't like him, he's the leader. And the leader seems to feel like we're doing a good job, which is...
We're happy with it.
Something to be happy about, yes.
Svetlana, any eye-opening story or photo for you while creating the whole process of the exhibitions, or something that has touched you deeply, or something that it will be probably forever in your mind or memory?
I think the entire process of building the book is something that it would never happen to me again. It was unbelievable. No, I don't have a particular story. I just, I'm proud of every one of the photographers who was so brave to do this. And I'm proud that we were able to put this in a book and stay.
And I can say, like, last year, we met at Arles Book Fair, and I brought, myself and my partner bought a lot of books back for the photojournalists
To
that
Ukraine.
participated. Had them put in the car and drove them back to Ukraine. And where I lived, a little cafe, so I was, okay, meet me there, and I'll give you your book. And everybody's super excited to look at the book, and, just... She was proud to make it, and I think everybody was proud to be a part of it. And I'll say one more thing. As I mentioned, I'm working on the front line, the same hospital, some have been killed, some have been injured, but the same medical team. And I brought them copies to some of the guys wanted. I brought them to see, and some of the guys asked for one. And it's quite something when Ukrainian medics to know that I watch them. I sent her pictures of them. Like, nobody looks at a photo book like I am a photographer and I love photography and I love photo books. I don't just sit and look at a 200-page book, each picture.
540.
I don't forget. Yeah, I don't have I can't even look at my own pictures that long. You know, if I'm looking at a book of a great photographer's book, I look at a few pictures and then look at it another time. People sat there for an hour in silence, turning each page because they're occupied doing one thing, and to see like what happened to their own country, and to remind them what they're doing, why they're fighting, why they're participating in the war. It's very powerful, and that, I mean, to me, it's like, I think a great just to see them look at a reward, of like, you're doing your part to say what's happening. It's really nice.
Whenever something is visualized, it definitely becomes more personal and more familiar. So, Svetlana, you said that the West has already made up their mind. Tirana, Pristina, they know who they are. So, in which side they are. Yeah. Did we see a lot of people coming to check the exhibition?
Where?
In both of the capitals, in Kosovo and Albania.
I was there during the opening, and then I left. But during the opening, there were a lot of people who came, and many Ukrainians, many people. Like in Pristina, the Minister of Justice came, the Prime Minister was there. In Albania was the Prime Minister, several other people came. And there were people coming. So at the end, they told me that they had quite a serious amount of people going through the exhibit. In Finland, we made a record. There were, for one day, like 370 people came, which is a lot. And then we have more than 6,000 for the entire time of the exhibit that went to see.
I mean, it was quite something in Tirana. She was there for the opening, and the next day I went in the afternoon just to take some photos of it empty, just to like of what it looked like. And university, I'm not sure what the course was, but 40 people from the university came, and it was quite something to watch them looking at stuff and taking their time. And yeah, in fact, one of the people who works at the exhibition was like, "This guy's got to make a little speech," which I enjoy doing. but it is like to watch the people. I mean, like, you feel it. I mean, that's what you want an audience. But you did it so people see it. So to see people see it,
to raise awareness,
is really to look at people actually taking time to look at it is great.
An example in Bulgaria, we're talking about organizing this exhibit from a year and a half.
It's not happening. Is it going to happen at some point?
I'm not sure. They're just afraid. And we had they had election yesterday, so things are worse than before. So,
and
I also communicated with people from Belarus. They said, "No way, just forget about that." Georgia, they're afraid.
Yeah, Belarus is probably not an option.
Doesn't matter. It's a good place, this exhibit, to be shown.
It is, but
but they don't want to show it.
Yeah.
I mean, showing it in Belarus is like showing it in Moscow.
No, I believe that people ask me why book. And book is something that people are familiar. It's not news, it's not newspaper, not related to politics. It's something that you're used to bring home, sit when you have time and go through.
Exactly, and it's not something you can just scroll like every 2 seconds or every 2 minutes.
So that's why it's books.
It's going to stay forever, documented and shown.
Yeah.
Tonight, the exhibition, it's going to be
7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
At the National
opening in Skopje
Gallery in Skopje.
And we invite everyone to go and check it out.
Yes.
A film also is going to be shown, right? What can we expect from the film? Is it a type of documentary, right?
It's entirely documentary.
It's entirely documentary.
It's the movie that won the Oscar for Best Documentary this year. 20 Days in Mariupol. It's difficult, but
you will see
it's a
children die in front of you. I mean, that's what you'll see. murdered by Russians. It's not unequivocal evidence that what happened. You'll see it. I mean,
If you have doubts what's happening there, it's good to see the movie.
Yeah.
Like in the book, we have in every single image has a date, place, particular caption. Everything could be checked. Is it true? Is it happened or not? Same with the movie.
As a resident in the Ukraine since 2014, now we're 2024, how has the situation shifted, changed? Is it still the same?
As far as like the public, so I mean, obviously the scale of it, now there's more people involved. In 14, it was a big, I'm talking about like volunteer, people assisting the army, and there was a lot of volunteer brigades and battalions of guys like from a region that decided we're going to go fight. We have no weapons, but we figure it out, you know? And of how the Ukrainian army has matured, and how it's quite shocking how since 22 it's grown exponentially, and it's still learning, but how it's functioning at all is quite something. And it seems like in times of like imminent crisis, you see how people come together and figure out how to solve problems. Like during the evacuation from around Kyiv, you know, we go to the towns and see people getting helped out, like walked to safety, put in vans and buses, driven to the center. And we watch this for 2 or 3 days, and then like, okay, let's go to the train station and see what's going on. And you know, I see people carrying old ladies and people in wheelchairs, putting them on trains. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Like, oh, we're sending them to safe in Odessa, it's safe in Lviv, so whatever train is here. And obviously, the closer you get to real danger, you see how people react, and it's a good spirit, a very good spirit.
It's been 10 years, and people tend to lose interest rather fast, sadly. Like I'm talking about people in foreign countries, different continents. Are we hoping that the exhibitions and the book will make people spread awareness again about the Ukraine, or also think more of the Ukraine again and seek ways to help Ukraine in one way or another? Or make people think that we need to act?
It's our hope, and it's extremely important for this region for several reasons. We showed the exhibit in several countries, 14 countries before coming to the Western Balkans, and here it just happened to be like that. And now we are discovering how people react there, how people react here, how it's in Bulgaria. So I mean, I'm sure that it's good to be seen. What we do, this interview is very good. People will listen, think about, maybe go to see the exhibit, learn more. Yeah, this is the only thing we could do, educate.
Tonight is being shown, is the opening in Skopje. For how many days will we have the exhibition open?
I don't know.
Month maybe, I'm not sure of the dates.
Where is the exhibition traveling next?
Belgrade.
Belgrade.
In October, we'll be present in Belgrade. And then in New York, in September, it will be presentation of the 2 books together. And we have other plans, but for the area is Belgrade.
For the area is Belgrade. Thank you. Thank you both of you for coming. Atëherë të dashur, erdhi koha t'ju lë ritakim për nesër përsëri në Klani Ditor. Për sot, mirëmbëjtje.